Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Power World. Today in this lecture, we'll discuss about Chlamydomonas. Chlamydomonas, actually it is having two flagella which are of equal size and located apical. These flagella arise from these two basal granules. Below basal granules, they possess contractile vacuole. Most important thing, that Chlamydomonas possess U-shaped chloroplast. U-shape, or you can simply say cup-shaped chloroplast. In cup-shaped chloroplast, there is reserve food which is known as a pyrenoid, which stores starch as well as protein, and these are thylakoid. So let's talk about reproduction in Chlamydomonas, which is most important for NEET. So first, asexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction, in which first formation of zoospores. Zoospores, they are formed under favorable condition. Most important, remember, zoospores are formed when the conditions are favorable. In this time, that flagella are withdrawn, मतलब flagella अब नहीं रहते हैं, and that contractile vacuoles are lost. So contractile vacuoles also helps in reproduction. So remember, occurs under favorable condition, flagella are withdrawn, contractile vacuoles are lost, so it becomes spherical like shape. Then it divides 2 to 4 times, and this division will be mitotic division. So 2 times divide hota hai and it forms this spores, and the main conditions are favorable. That main cell body ruptures and it releases zoospores. Right? So as it is asexual reproduction, only one parent is involved. So all zoospores are haploid. But remember, zoospores are formed under favorable conditions. जब condition favor में हो तब. Now second type is aplanospores, hypnospore or echinite. These spores are formed when conditions are unfavorable. Conditions unfavorable हो तब वो ये form होता है. Here same as zoospores, flagella are withdrawn, contractile vacuole lost, and then the protoplast divides by 2 mitotic division. So this is cell wall and these are 4 spores because 2 division occurs. This is spore-like structure. Now, new cell wall is formed or is deposited. So that depends on the type of cell wall. They may be aplanospore, hypnospore or echinites. So if that whatever the new wall form, it is thin layer. जो भी नई वॉल फॉर्म हो रही है, अगर वो thin layer है, then this is known as a aplanospore. So thin layer wall form हो रहा है, then it is that spore is known as a aplanospore. Second, thick layer wall form हो रही है, but it is not red in color. Wall is thick, but it is not red in color, then it is echinite. And third, that wall is formed, but that wall is thick and red in color. That red is due to presence of hematochrome. So that is known as a hypnospores. Right? So whenever the conditions favorable, that wall break and it release spores. So this is most important: aplanospores, echinite, and that is hypnospores. So remember beta, whenever the condition is favorable, that zoospores are formed, and conditions are unfavorable, then aplanospores, hypnospores and akinete are formed. Third type. Here the condition is not so favorable and not so unfavorable. कंडीशंस बहुत फेवरेबल भी नहीं है और अनफेवरेबल भी नहीं है. सो कंडीशंस नॉट सो फेवरेबल एंड नॉट सो अनफेवरेबल. फेवरेबल भी नहीं है, अनफेवरेबल भी नहीं है. सेम अगेन, contractile vacuole lost, flagella withdrawn. So the cell becomes spherical or round shape, 2 to 4 mitotic division and spores like structure. And when they are surrounded by mucilage layer, then it is known as a Pamela stage. Right? तो mucilage का layer होता है. ठीक है? ओके, तो ये हो गया Pamela stage. Right? Okay. Now next let's talk about sexual reproduction. सेक्सुअल रिप्रोडक्शन की बात करें तो यहाँ पे 2 टाइप्स के देखने मिलते हैं, जिम्नोगैमेट एंड कैलिप्टोगैमेटी. जिम्नोगैमेटी मतलब कि जिसमें नेकेड गैमेट होते हैं उसको जिम्नो बोलते हैं, एंड जो सेल वॉल का कवर होता है उसको बोलते हैं कैलिप्टोगैमेटी. नाउ जस्ट सी दिस reproduction type. So actually this is Chlamydomonas. Here same as previous, mitotic division occurs and forms spores which are haploid. These gametes are haploid. Here that gametes fuse but from apical side. Apical side से दोनों गमेट फ्यूज होते हैं. So when these 2 gametes fuse, so now it becomes N and 2N, but now it is having 4 flagella. So this zygote having quadriflagella. Quadri मतलब 4 flagella होते हैं. Now this zygote is converted into zygospore, right? In zygospore that meiotic division occurs and it forms 4 spore which is known as a meiospore. Right? इसको क्या बोलते हैं? meiospore. और meiospores कितने होते हैं? यहाँ पे 4 spores फॉर्म होते हैं जिसको बोलते हैं meiospores. Right? Okay. Now this meiospores, when the wall got ruptured, that spores are released. Now it is known as the zoomeiospores, and later which is converted into as the mature Chlamydomonas. So again you can see here that only this phase which is diploid, but remaining it is haploid, that is in N form. N means haploid and 2N means diploid. तो अपनी लाइफ में मेजोरिटी जो फेजेस है वो N कंडीशन में है. दैट्स वाई दिस टाइप ऑफ लाइफ साइकिल इज नोन एज अ हैप्लॉन्टिक लाइफ साइकिल. क्या बोलते हैं उसको? हैप्लॉन्टिक लाइफ साइकिल. So this is about Chlamydomonas. Remember its spores and this Pamela stage is also important.
Chlamydomonas is unicellular and it has a typical cell wall, a nucleus, a cup-shaped chloroplast, and this chloroplast has a pyrenoid. This pyrenoid is a proteinaceous structure which stores starch. These are flagella, As we discussed earlier, all motile forms have a red eye spot. It is light sensitive. These are contractile vacuoles. So this is a unicellular alga which is very prevalent in fresh waters. Chlamydomonas asexual reproduction. In asexual reproduction, the Chlamydomonas cell withdraws its flagella. The protoplasm inside divides 2 times, producing 4 daughter cells, and each daughter cell develops 2 flagella, and by the dissolution of parent cell wall, these flagellated daughter cells come out, and since they are moving with the help of flagella, they are called zoospores. So each zoospore is exactly like the parent cell but small in size. Gradually, this zoospore grows in size and attains its original size, that is asexual reproduction. Now let us see sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction is of 3 types. One is isogamous type, 2 anisogamous type, and 3 oogamous type. Now look at the animations one by one. Isogamous type. In isogamous type, 2 gametes come together by their anterior ends, and gradually the flagella are withdrawn and the protoplasm from one gamete enters into another gamete. The resulting body is zygote, which is diploid, and this diploid zygote produces a thick resistant wall around. So this condition is called encysted condition. Here actually you should note one important point. Asexual reproduction takes place during favorable conditions and sexual reproduction takes place under unfavorable conditions. So before the advent of unfavorable conditions, Chlamydomonas undergoes sexual reproduction. After sexual union, the zygote should undergo a period of rest during unfavorable conditions. For that, the zygote produces a thick wall around. And in this encysted condition, it tides over the unfavorable conditions. Again, when the pond or the water body in which they live is filled with water, the zygote undergoes reduction division and 4 daughter cells are produced and they produce flagella. Now they are called zoospores. These zoospores escape through the broken cyst wall and they swim freely, and each zoospore grows to the normal size of the parent cell, that is isogamous type. Anisogamous type. Here, the participating gametes are not equal in size. Some gametes are small in size. They can be called microgametes, and some gametes produced by another Chlamydomonas cell, they are large in size and they can be called macrogametes. A macrogamete and a microgamete come together, join by their anterior ends, withdraw their flagella. The protoplasm from the microgamete enters into the macrogamete, fuses with it, and a diploid zygote is produced. This diploid zygote produces a thick resistant wall around. In this encysted condition, it takes rest. The protoplasm divides by reduction division. 4 zoospores are produced. They develop flagella, and when the cyst wall breaks open, the zoospores escape, swim away, and they develop into parent cells. Oogamous type. In oogamous type, the female gamete is non-motile. It is called egg or ovum. So the gametangium, the female gametangium that produces a single egg, and the male gametangium divides and produces many male gametes which are small in size. The male gametes swim and they come into contact with the egg, and one of the male gametes fuses with the egg, resulting in the formation of diploid zygote. Since the small male gamete fuses with a non-motile egg, it is called oogamous type. This zygote forms a thick resistant wall, that is encysted condition, remains dormant during the unfavorable conditions, and at the advent of favorable conditions, the protoplasm inside, that That is, the zygote divides by meiosis, producing 4 haploid zoospores, and when the cyst wall breaks open, the 4 haploid zoospores escape out, they swim out, and they grow to their original size, that is, oogamous type. These are the types of sexual reproduction in Chlamydomonas. Life cycle of Chlamydomonas. You see the animation here. Now let me explain here the life cycle of Chlamydomonas. This Chlamydomonas has asexual reproduction. In this asexual reproduction, it produces zoospores. The protoplasm divides to produce 4 to 8 zoospores. And these zoospores are haploid. The Chlamydomonas plant itself is haploid. And each zoospore grows in size and becomes a Chlamydomonas plant. This is asexual reproduction. See the sexual reproduction. So in sexual reproduction, the protoplast divides and the gametes are produced. These gametes are haploid in nature and the gametes fuse with each other. One we call it plus, another we call it minus. When they fuse, they produce a diploid zygote. Zygote only is the diploid state in the life cycle of Chlamydomonas. This zygote produces a wall around, and in this encysted condition, it can tide over unfavorable conditions. So it undergoes a period of rest, and that is called zygospore. Spore means it should germinate, but since it is a diploid one, it is called zygospore. The protoplasm of the zygospore undergoes meiosis, reduction division, and zoospores are produced. Because it is reduction division, the zoospores are haploid. These zoospores directly grow into the Chlamydomonas plants. So this life cycle of Chlamydomonas is called haplontic life cycle. Means the major stages of the life cycle are haploid. The diploid stage is confined only to zygote. That is why it is called haplontic life cycle.